By me, Doug Taylor.
Just hit got it.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's
All
the
right.
Design Review Board Zoom meeting platform, November 3rd, 2021 at 5:36 p.m. Bisbee 76 Erie Street, Bisbee, Arizona 85603. I'm going to start by doing a roll call.
We need to tap on
First
that.
member and welcome, Savannah Anderson.
Here.
Your gaffer.
Tell me we're here and then.
If you're not a board
put
member,
the-
if you could mute your audio at this time, if you are not a board member, mute your audio.
Stephen Green,
Here.
Lori Gunnell. Is it
Here.
Gunnell or Gunnell?
Ganell, here.
Gunnell, okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Scott Perfect,
Here.
Linda Santianes, I'm here. Ben Lepley is excused for tonight. Frank Davis
Here.
and Doug Taylor.
Here.
Okay, let's start with call to the public. Residents of the city of Bisbee may speak at this time regarding design review board topics that are not on the agenda. Public may address the board regarding items on this agenda following the applicant's initial presentation of their agenda item. Speaking time limits will be observed during the call to the public. The speaking time limit is 3 minutes per person. We have anyone who has a concern, comment outside of the agenda items? Nope. Okay, we'll go into item number 1, old Bisbee, old business. This item was tabled for 30 days at the July 7th, 2021 meeting. The motion was made that this item be tabled for 30 days or until such time that the applicant can present the documentation as discussed during the hearing on July 7th, 2021. As of July 19th, 2021, Mr. Brian Hope became the representative for the property owners. At that time, Mr. Hope asked that it be pushed a month or two. It now comes before the board. Resubmitted application 2154 for the Bisbee Residential Historic District contributing property number 272 located at 517A Mayor Avenue. Applicants Paula Burt and Deborah Wood, Representative Brian Hope. I don't know if Paula and Deborah are on. So Mr. Hope, I guess it's going to be you. The application is seeking approval for demolition of dangerous structures or structure only, and no new construction of a 2-story, 6 single-family residence at this time. They're just looking for the demo permit, and I received that as a notification from Nina earlier today. And then I will continue. The 300-foot notification went out on June 1st, 2021. Public comment, there is one comment against. Pursuant to Bisbee zoning code, article 3.5.2.a, the property owner is required to obtain or be prior to the change of any building's exterior feature by remodeling or alteration, or prior to any new construction within the district. Application. Applicant representative will present their application to the board. Remember, we have on this item, there'll only be time for speaking for 3 minutes, but since it's the applicant, go ahead, Mr. Hope. I'm assuming you're going to be presenting this.
Yes, good evening, everybody. This is Brian Hope speaking. I'm having some problems with my audio. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Perfectly.
Again, thank you for your patience. Circumstances have changed and we are only applying for the demolition of this property this evening. At a later time, we will a separate proposal, a separate project for new construction when the time is right for that. So 517 Mayor came before you before. At first glance, the building doesn't look so bad. Pretty much looks like any other derelict property in town. I'm sure you'll agree there's no shortage of those. But when we deconstruct this building, especially its structural components, it becomes apparent that it's just simply too dilapidated for rehab. The property owners engaged me to help ascertain feasibility of rehab. I performed both a visual and an electronic inspection using a recently calibrated laser scanner. Those of you who are unfamiliar with that technology, it's a high-tech method of hyper-accurate measurement and documentation. The attached images to this proposal reflect the inspections I made. Photographs should speak for themselves in that they show pretty much every type of building damage that's imaginable. Regarding the scanner images, please understand that these are not illustrations. These are the actual data as recorded by the scanner. These are to-scale measurable documentation of existing conditions. I did apply a normals filter to the images to make the data easier to read. Normal filter is simply the orientation of a surface to its light source. Added reference planes to it, that helps in the interpretation of the data. Otherwise, these images are fully unretouched. When I look at the data, a Rubik's Cube comes to mind. The building is turned and twisted every way. The image of the plan view shows hinge conditions and bearing walls throughout the structure. Sections show severe out of plumb conditions in the walls, also demonstrated by the levels reference planes are severe out of level and bowed conditions of the ceiling planes. So deconstructed, it becomes apparent that the building has been stressed beyond the limits for which it was intended. I did a subsequent code analysis, and I believe I've shown that the building fails the requirements for a habitable dwelling and is therefore condemnable. Same analysis shows that the building meets the criteria for a dangerous building and is therefore. Applicable building codes are referenced, and I'm not going to insult you by reading the entirety of my report. Bisbee zoning code states 3 criteria for the demolition in the historic district, and only one need be met. And this condition is that either a registered engineer or a licensed contractor determine that rehab is not feasible. Well, I'm providing statements from both. Engineer George Lounsbury is a licensed registered PE with over 20 years of application. His practice is centered in the structural arena. He did a site visit, performed a visual inspection, and declared the structure to be dangerous, a public hazard. He recommended demolition. I offered him my LiDAR data. He said he didn't need it. He saw everything that he needs to see. Of import is that his letter bears his seal. He's staking his professional reputation, his very license, on his stated professional opinion that demolition is prudent. Also have a statement from a licensed contractor. Michael Stefan, president of Satori Builders, is a highly experienced and award-winning general contractor. He inspected the property and he was incredulous that there was any difficulty in securing a demo permit. He too agreed with my assertions. So please understand that demolition was not the homeowner's original intent, but rather rehab. These ladies love Bisbee. They love the architectural fabric here. That's why they bought here. The notion of demolition only surfaced after it was seen that rehab simply wasn't feasible. The decision was made to demo and salvage as much as possible for reuse in the new residence. I do have before me a public comment letter from Mr. Tom Slusser in objection to the demolition. Now, while I respect his opinion, I note that his stance revolves around the possibility of rehab. So is it possible to rehab this property? Yeah, sure, of course it is. Anything's possible. With enough funding, we can do anything. But my clients don't have unlimited funding. They have to examine feasibility. Page 6 of the Intro to Arizona SHPO Rehab Standards clearly states that the standards are to be applied to specific projects in a reasonable manner, taking into consideration economic and technical feasibility. So that said, you have my reports, you have excerpts from applicable zoning and building codes, you have letters from building professionals, all of which support this proposed demolition. So that is all I have. I'll put it in your court, and I'll be available to field any questions or comments. I thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open it up for the board members to discuss.
Actually, you need to do public
Oh,
comment.
sorry.
And then
Public comments.
I have John Sky on the phone. He would like to speak regarding this item. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, how's it going? My name's John Sky. I run Lithic Construction. I personally went up and looked at the house a while ago. I explained to them exactly how to fix it. I gave them a bid of, I think it was 25 grand to fix all the floors and pour out the walls to make the building structurally safe. I was even willing to explain to them, to their handyman, how to do it to save the structure. The structure is totally savable. There's no question about that. I remember Rose, she used to live in the house. It's a perfectly good house. And what I would like to add is to approve a demolition without any other plans of what is going to replace the house is ridiculous. They need to have plans of what they intend to put there prior to demolition. As of right now, they can put a lock on that gate. No one needs to be around the house if they felt like it was truly dangerous. But plans need to be in place of replacing the structure in the very least. But I would definitely just go full force in saying that structure is fine. It can be fixed and it won't be that expensive. And I need to remind the DRB that the cost of the project should not be taken into account when it comes to historical restoration. If you can't afford to fix the house and it can be fixed, then you need to sell the house to someone that can. And that's all I'll say tonight. Thank you very much for taking all that into consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Sky. Do we have any other public comments? Mr. Joe Ward, you're on mute. Go.
Yeah, I've got a staff report. Have you guys seen that?
Yes, I have.
Yes,
Okay.
Everybody else received it?
yes.
I'm going to read from it. The physical condition. This is an excerpt from the Secretary of the Interior Standards for the Treatment of Historic Properties. Preservation may be appropriate if distinctive materials, features, and spaces are essentially intact, convey the building's historical significance. If the building requires more extensive repair and replacement, or if alterations or new necessary for use, the rehabilitation is probably the most appropriate treatment. I have no financial incentive, for my opinion. I do not judge this structure to be a hazard to public safety. I'm very familiar with restoration. I've been in construction for 44 years, 9 years as a building inspector, or almost 8 years as a building inspector, and 44 years in construction, and 20 years as a general contractor. I'm familiar with restoration and preservation projects with my inspecting here in Bisbee. The limitations on this home's structural integrity are self-imposed by the homeowners. They tore out the floors and this left the home without a structural diaphragm it formerly had its base. This is repairable. The home is not in terrible shape. And there's been an assertion that the building can't be repaired because it's so close to the solid rock. Well, that's hyperbole. How did the home get there to begin with? Its existence proves it's possible to build there. And as far as the fire damage, it dates from 1974. There's been a lot of wind and a lot of snow, and the house is the roof hasn't collapsed. It hasn't moved. It's mostly visual dam. It's mostly charcoal on the outside of the wood, but the roof is still structural. And there's the physical hardship for repairing that existing contributing structure. There's little financial hardship. Preserving the roof and the walls are going to actually save money towards building a structure, and there's no financial incentive to demolish the structure. Demolishing the existing contributing structure and building new would cost more than rehabilitating the existing home. At June's meeting, the DRB approved the rehab of the lithic project, 24 Moon Canyon. And the month prior to that, the Slusser's rehab of 16 Clausen Avenue. These projects provide strong evidence of the viability of preserving our dilapidated historic inflation and property values in the historic district provides even more economic incentive to respect our contributing structures. In our zoning code, it states that the district is intended to preserve and enhance the city's character. Demolishing this contributing structure is going to violate these goals. My recommendation is that the design review board not approve this application for demolishing. And I have Al Strati here who'd like to talk.
Go ahead, Al.
Hi, my name is Al Strati. I've been restoring, I guess is the best word, properties in Bisbee since the mid-90s. We're working on a little cabin right now that's at 132 Naco Road, right on the way into Old Bisbee as you approach from the pit. The building is very similar to the property in question here, except for the fact that it was in really much worse condition than the building up on Mayor. We have successfully put a new foundation under the building and built a new framework within the old original siding without removing the siding, without interrupting the building in any way, without disruption in any way. So, and I would be available to the applicant here to show them exactly what we did. I really believe that the property there on Mayor Avenue was 100% restorable at a relatively reasonable cost too, compared to the cost of demolition and removal and the cost of then building a new building. And my last commentary is that building, when you look at the actual materials that were used, 1x12s that were harvested from virgin lumber up in the Pacific Northwest, and that's overlaid by horizontal shiplap siding of also vintage material. All of that would be lost to Bisbee if that building is removed. I do not support the removal of the building. I would like to see it preserved. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Strata. Is there somebody else who would like to speak?
I would like to say something.
Oh, Tyler, go ahead.
Along with John Sky, I've been to that house to look and do estimates. After they would remove the floors, I've restored houses that were in much worse condition like that. Along with what Al had to say, I've seen his project. I've been inside that project. I helped him clean it out, and that house was in much worse condition than the one on Mayor Avenue. There's no reason that house can't be restored. And like Joel said, the danger of that house was inflicted by the people that currently own it by removing all of those floors and not continuing to remodeling it after they started it. So now as it sits, it may be a danger, but previous to them buying that, it was not. There's no reason for that house to come down. It's probably going to be almost more affordable to restore it than it is to build a 1,600 square foot building. So I don't agree with the demo of that house either. And that's it.
Mr. Taylor?
I wasn't privy to the presentations and inspections previously because I wasn't on the job. This is a contributing structure. I understand that the building inspector has a written opinion in favor of keeping the structure, and I stand by his decision and I support it. I feel that the removal of the floor is what put this building in peril, and I would like to see it saved.
Anyone else have any comments as far as public? Okay, let's move on to the board discussion. Mr. Perfect?
I just have a quick question. John Sky cited that prior to demolition that we need drawings of the house that's going to be replacing that. Is that not included in the packet that Brian Hopes submitted? Where there's
It's been withdrawn.
I can answer that. He submitted plans and they were withdrawn. Application for demo is what you have on the table right now.
okay, but at the same time, Doug, John's tying the demolition into the necessity of having plans.
Well,
Is
I
that
think
correct?
maybe what John might have been talking about, and I took a different tack on it. I think what he's saying is when a house is demoed and left as bare ground, if they walk away from the project, we don't know, we've lost a piece of the fabric. I think this is what he's doing. And I feel that way. If we tear it down without an alternative with a budget contractor, we're about to lose a piece of this important historic district. And I do feel in general that we are losing little pieces bit by bit. I think this is one we could save.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
I
You're
have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Scannell.
Thank you. So I'm wondering why the floor was removed. Can Brian Hope answer that?
I'm not aware of why it was removed. The floor was removed, obviously, but I don't feel that responsible for that should have any bearing on this. The fact remains that as it stands, the building is condemnable.
Joe Ward?
Yeah, the floor's gone because they were repairing the floor. And they got that far. And then I had told them that that I told them that the wood needed to be pressure treated the way that they were doing it, and they'd already had the wood up there. And so then they said, well, we'll just demolish the house then.
I want to go ahead and ask you a question, Mr. Ward. When they pulled out the flooring, are you talking about the floor joists as well, or just the flooring?
The entire floor assembly.
So floor joists, everything was pulled out.
Post, the decking, the whole thing.
And Joe, the piers underneath holding the flooring up, those are all removed out from the center of the home?
Yes, they were removed by the homeowners, but the present shoring that's holding it up is pretty good.
Well, as I saw it, what's holding it up are metal cables.
No, the metal cables are not holding it up. The jacks are.
The what is, Joe?
Sorry,
Jacks.
you're perfect.
Oh, the jacks.
So what's the purpose of the metal cables, Mr. Ward?
They're holding the building up. They're holding it so that it doesn't shift.
Collapse.
Or balloon out.
Shift and collapse, okay.
Temporary support is
Now, I do have a question. Mr. Hope, do you know if the owner purchased the house prior to 1974?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay, because that's when the fire happened, so they purchased it post-fire. I don't know if they would have known that beforehand or not, since I would imagine there was probably a ceiling in there.
I don't know if that was disclosed at time of purchase or not.
Okay. And then any other board members?
I would like to add though, excuse me, please, there were no floor piers under the floor. It was all timber to earth. That was confirmed by the homeowner.
Thank you, Mr. Hope. Anyone else? Mr. Gaffer?
No, I have no questions. I appreciate the comments, both by Mr. Hope and by the members of the public opposed. This is always tough ones, and I tend to lean in this case on preservation because, in my opinion, it's by far and away not the worst I've looked at. But I really have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Green?
Same opinion, really. I'm erring towards preservation, especially as the formerly proposed replacement building was so much larger than the one subject to the demolition permit application. So, one thing's tearing down a historic building, but then replacing it with something that's completely different might not necessarily be the best thing to do.
Does anybody else on the board have any comments? Okay, I have some comments. First of all, if we're just looking at whether this should be demolished or not, I strongly feel that a registered engineer stamp is valid. That's what we had requested for them to do, to come back with that and or an approval from a general contractor. So I feel the applicant went ahead and did do that. And so on that, and based on what I have seen, I mean, the place is a mess. Whether they caused it or not, I don't think is part of what the DRB is here for. We don't punish people, but I don't want to go against a registered engineer. I realize that it would be nice to salvage this. I think there is a little bit of a conflict when we don't really know what structure is going to go on there. If it had been the 2-story, then we can go off of that. But now that it's not a 2-story, it might be the ground, just a 1-story. Originally, the clients or the applicants were willing to work with the board. They were going to replace everything. And we requested an awful lot of them, a lot of financial cost and financial burden in order to drawing stamps. Having a difficult time with that, with the fact that we're requesting certain things, they have abided by the request. I know that people are against this. A lot of them are opinions, but I cannot go against a registered engineer and a general contractor because I can't. That place in my 42 years of seeing things, I've never seen anything worse than that. Well, maybe one that's coming up. That's really, really bad, but they're equal. It's horrible. So that's pretty much what I have to say. And I don't know, Mr. Hope, if you know what they're going to be doing or if you back up what's going on.
Madam Chairman, the owners are scaling it back. They decided to go with a 1-story residence. In all likelihood, it will mimic exactly what is there now. Notably that that rear wall on the north side is going to be pulled forward from that cliff wall a good 3 or 4 feet to allow the actual construction, the maintenance, dry-in of it. I assume it's going to be of a craftsman style, but other than that, I cannot give you any detail at this point.
Does anyone have any other comments? Mr. Taylor?
I just wanted to point up that an illegally started demo or construction is punishable by law, and that if they do that and it creates a financial hardship for them, that is their own concern. that isn't the concern of the DRB to allow them, because I think that the engineer and whoever else they had, the contractor in there, looked at it without a floor. And that's I think that's probably what happened. Brian, is that what happened? They looked at it without a floor?
Well, yes, I mean, this only happened recently, so of course they saw it without the
So
floor.
like I said, I don't know the history, so I'm just asking so I have clarification. When they-
Understood.
Excuse me?
Understood.
Okay. And when they took the floor out, they put the building in peril. That they have to make right one way or another. I don't think that justifies tearing it down.
Well, in their defense, the floor was taken out in preparation of lifting the structure to get footings underneath it. Nothing was done maliciously. Nothing was done with the intent of causing a building failure.
Well,
But it
and-
became apparent that this was going to be infeasible. That's when they stopped.
And they didn't have a permit for this, is my understanding?
That's my understanding. They're new to town. They did not understand the rules and regulations. Mr. Ward did visit them, gave a cease and desist, which they abided by. And here we are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just want to remind the board that, I mean, I'm listening to what everybody's saying, and I have a lot of respect for that, but I want to remind the board that we're here for the design portion. And I understand the legal matters and I understand ramifications, but that's zoning. And I really didn't want to bring it up at this meeting, but if somebody could make a motion, then we can move forward.
I'll make a motion to deny. I think the building should be preserved, especially since we do not know what is going to replace it.
And I would like to second that motion, as it is a contributing historical building.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I voted nay because it's I got confused for a moment. It's a, Lori, did you say that you are voting to
deny
the building?
Seconded.
Yeah, demolition of.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Yes, so I am on that. Just sorry.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what did we have? We had four denies and two, I guess we had two in favor of saving the destroying the building and two in favor of saving the building. Is that what I'm understanding?
The other way around.
Wait.
Or
So I'm in favor of saving the building. That's why I had to clarify that.
So there were four
Saving
who
the
are in
building.
favor of saving the building and two that are not. So the
Okay, that's
motion
what I thought.
passes 4-2.
Okay. The motion passes.
I guess on this one, maybe I should have said differently, but I don't know if this would have changed anybody's minds, but I don't know if something like this could have been tabled. I mean, obviously we already voted, but if something like this could be tabled for another 30 days until drawings come up, or do they resubmit for another application? I mean, how does that work, Doug?
Well, they'll an application to
Do like a
demo.
single story.
Oh, yes, they're going to come back for that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hope.
Thank you, and we will appeal this decision to deny the demo. I appreciate everybody's stance and comments, and we'll see you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 2. This item was tabled under the next meeting at the October 6, 2021 meeting. Application 2178 Bisbee Residential Historic District, contributing property number 93, located at 109 OK Street. Applicants Robert and Kathleen Harmon, Representative Tyler Perry. Tyler Bradbury. This application is seeking approval for stairs fence. Original stairs were taken down in order to stucco the retaining wall that was in disrepair. The pre-existing stairs were made of iron and wood to rebuild with a much sturdier and weather-resistant stairway. They will also be replacing the fence with wrought iron, not to exceed 4 feet, approximately 40 feet long, upper approximately 30 feet long. Pursuant to Bisbee zoning code article 3.5.2.a, the property owner is required to obtain approval from the DRB prior to the change of any building's exterior feature. Application. Applicant representative will present their application to the board. Do we have Robert or Kathleen Harmon? Or represent, oh, Tyler, you're there.
I'm here.
Go ahead and your application.
So the stairs were taken down to repair the wall. That was approved by Joe Ward. And we didn't realize at the time we were going to have DRB approval to put them back. So I don't know exactly what happened at the last meeting. I understand there was some confusion. So I've been working with the homeowners on their house. I was kind of involved with the stairs and the walls, but not really. So I stepped in to kind of help them get this approved and move forward with it. So the staircase, as you may know, it's one of the main entrances into the house and the yard. There is one other place where you can get in there from the stairs. None of the stairs are within code. They all are different measurements. There's not enough space to improve those stairs and make them more comfortable to get up and down. And so this staircase is very important to have for the property. Anybody that's drove up OK Street before from past these stairs, and it was a tight space to get into, but they've got to be there. So what's proposed here is a new staircase, all metal, with a rail, bringing it up to code. We've got to have the fence-like railings in there in order to have our maximum 4-inch spacing. And now that they're gone, we've looked into positioning the stairs and, talked with the city. Design review board don't really have much to do with it. We are going to switch the entrance of the stairs, kind of flip them. It's going to open up the road a little bit and make the stairs where there's not as many steps because it's going uphill. So they were asking for some better drawings previously, from what I understand. So we have provided those drawings. There's a drawing with the stairs. You would enter the stairs on the drawing from the left and go up to the right. That was, I don't think, was originally done. I suggested to them that they do something within the design that's seen more around town. This having kind of like a fence insert into the railings is common to see around town. So that's where we're at with that. And then there's another drawing that kind of shows at the top of the stairs, there's going to be a gate that they can lock. Also seen similar things like that around through the historic district. And the fence will replicate kind of what's next to that gate. So that's where we're at with it.
Okay, we'll open it up for public comment at this point. And remember, we have a speaking limit of 3 minutes only. Thank you. Anyone?
I have a question on the application. It
Oh,
says.
Wait
Sorry.
a second, Lori. We're still at public comments.
Oh, public comment, sorry.
So no public comments. Let's move on to board discussion. Go ahead, Lori.
Okay, so it says that the existing material, or the stairs that used to be there, was wood and iron, and that the new material will be iron and composite. Is that composite going to have the look of wood? I mean, will it look similar to the style of staircase that was there before?
Yeah. It's going to be like the composite decking to give it the wood look. And now, you know, I don't know if anybody's worked with any of that stuff yet, but it's really come a long ways as far as the way it lasts, the way it wears, and the similarity to the wood look.
If I may.
Yes, you may.
Lori, you do not want the stairs to look like what the original stairs looked like. It's going to look a lot better.
Yeah, the original stairs was basically just an I-beam laid up in the street that went up to some posts with some like rotted full dimension 2x12s on there, and it was definitely not safe. It was very narrow, and it was ugly.
And can I again, Madam Chairman? May I
Yes,
again?
you may, Mr. Taylor.
I'm really satisfied that the applicants did everything in their power. It was them, and they've done an amazing job, and I think they need to be commended, and I think they've really got the right person on their side with Tyler.
Do any board members have any comments? I know we've heard from Lori. Mr. Perfect?
I remember discussing this at the last meeting, and it seemed like we asked for clearer drawings, and not only with dimensions, but also callouts. A lot about what is going to be used as construction materials, but I'm not seeing it written down anywhere. And I'm also not seeing any dimensions. And I'm looking at the first drawing that goes left to right up. It's got, it looks like balusters in there in the center of it, but then there's another drawing that it doesn't have those. So I'm a little confused as to what exactly the design is.
The first drawing,
what's being used?
The first drawing that was in there, you know, and it shows on there the 4x4 and the 6-inch channel. That was the initial drawing, and that one is pretty much no longer going to be used. It just stayed in the packet because we didn't redo the packet. We just added drawings to it. So the other ones that show the stair from going up left to right, that would be the design we're going to be going with. And as far as the dimensions go, you know, I don't know which dimensions you want to see on there as far as maybe the width of the metal, the width of the balusters, the railing, but you know, I don't know which dimensions you want to see. And I didn't do the drawing, so I didn't put anything on there.
I'd like to speak on that if you're done. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Perfect.
But it just seems like that was the stipulation why we tabled this at that time is that we didn't have any dimensions or any call outs on what was, and now you're saying that this new drawing is going to be what's represented or what is going to be constructed, correct?
Right.
Mr. Perfect, I believe that the drawing submitted is to scale, and that I think you have, was it a 5/8 by 5/8 baluster in that, or I think it was called out in the other drawing. If you could extrapolate I don't remember what the dimensions were in the other drawing, but if you could extrapolate the dimensions from the original drawing to the one that we have, which meets the intent of, they found, I think in Brewery Gulch or somewhere in town, they found stair rails that looked like that. And I think you'd be satisfied with it if you could just take the dimensions from the other one and assume that they're in this one.
Thank you, Doug.
I'd like to make a comment. Last time we had an incomplete submittal, and this time we have an incomplete submittal. So can we table this for 30 days? Because
is there any way we can go without a table? These stairs need to be put in. They've been waiting. They, you know, have to go up and down these inconsistent steps with 12-inch risers. I mean, this
I've been
is,
up, I've been up and down those steps, Tyler, and while I understand what you're saying, we keep getting these incomplete submittals and we need to stop it somewhere. I mean,
okay, so then,
excuse me, Mr. Tyler, I'm speaking. We asked for a width, we asked for the depth, we asked for the riser size, the, well, mostly it's the height of the railing. All we're looking for is for the code compliant issues. We asked for photograph. We did see like a quick picture online, but it did not get submitted. I have a problem with the fact that this is not complete and that we have two different designs of railing. We don't really know what the products are going to be. They're not stated on here. And other board member would like to make a comment, that would be great. I know, Mr. Taylor, you're dealing with everybody. But let's keep this to the board members. Is there another board member that would like to make a comment on this? And then I'll get back to you, Mr. Taylor.
Are you back to me?
I'll get back to you in a second.
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah,
Green or Mr. Gaffer or anyone?
I can come in here. I was at the last meeting and you're right. We did ask for dimensional information and proper illustration of what they were planning to do, and all we've got is a similar drawing around the other way with no other dimensions on it, which basically is the same as what we had at the last meeting. So I do agree with you, Linda, that we have an incomplete submission on this application.
Okay, anybody else, Mr. Gaffer?
Yeah, I mean, I concur. This is very frustrating, and I agree with you, Linda, that we keep getting caught with bad submittals that we approve, and we shouldn't. This doesn't really describe where it is with respect to the wall. I understand the frustration of the applicant, but honestly, this is a very poor submission, and sadly, I tend to agree with Linda and with Stephen.
And Tyler, to be fair to you, I believe you probably came into the project late because we've already gone through this once before.
and I would like to say something on that.
Sure.
After the first meeting, they had come to me and explained what was going on. They told me that they had a meeting with Doug so they could discuss what was needed for this meeting. During that meeting, we were asking, what is it that we need? We never had any straight answers. It was, we need to know the direction of the stairs. No, we don't need to know the direction of the stairs. I said, do you want it drawn on a picture? No, I don't want it drawn on a picture. Do you want it drawn to scale with all this other stuff? Through that entire meeting, nothing ever came up that we needed dimensions on these. Had that have been said, I would have got these. I would have wrote in the dimensions myself, and then I would have turned it in. Because if that's what was required, that's what I would have turned in. Now, I was under the impression that they need a design. They want to know where it's going to go at on the wall. It's going to go where it was before, and but it's going to go the other direction. It's going to be right up against the wall. One of the rails is going to be attached to the wall. But as far as the dimensions and everything else that goes along with that, this is a staircase that is being built to code, which means that everything has a 4-inch spacing in between it. I just don't understand why for the design aspect, we need to have all of these dimensions to get this approved and get it put back. Code is very specific as far as dimensions. And that's where I'm, getting confused. And I also, it's not fair to the homeowners that when we had a meeting to discuss what was needed for this application, dimensions never came up. Anybody that knows me in town, if you tell me you want dimensions, you're going to get dimensions. And that's the bottom line. But that never came up in the meeting when we discussed what was needed on the application.
Okay, I'm actually gonna.
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, Mr. Davis.
I think that I understand the board frustration with incomplete submittals. I've been there, but this is just a simple stair. And it's, you know, it's a pragmatic decision to be made here. As Tyler stated, it's regulated by code. It's not a big design thing, it's a stair. And these people have been put off already, and they need a stair. You know, I understand you've made your point about incomplete submissions, but they didn't get, there was a miscommunication. I think these things, my opinion would be to let them build the stairs.
Yeah, I have a comment. I tend to agree with Mr. Davis. I think it is a simple staircase. I think there's only, you know, they're not going to do something wild and crazy, and it has to follow code. And they've already been through this once, and it might not be their fault that they don't have. I mean, there's this drawing that has some dimensions on it, you know, I guess that's the older one. But I don't see why we can't, you know, apply this 36, you know, inch handrail to the other one and say, well, that's high enough. And I think it is, isn't it? 36?
That's code.
With a 6-inch channel makes it 42, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's really, under the circumstances, unfair to the homeowners to put this off.
And I'd like to say one last thing. Tyler, I know you came into this late, and Lori, I'm not sure if you were there at the original meeting, but you know, there are recorded meetings and everything that was required on the recorded meeting. I don't think this is a problem with Mr. Taylor. I think this is just, I mean, there's obviously been a miscommunication, but everything has been spoken about. Everything has been, I mean, they were waffling back and forth. They talked about, you know, taking the stairs out somewhere else. I mean, whatever is submitted now is new and different from what it was before, but we still don't really know what it's going to look like. And I still, you know, if we just pass something and say, well, we don't think it's going to be, you know, easy design. Well, that's not, we need to know what it's going to be. And they had a photograph before. I don't know why they didn't just insert that into this. So now, Mr. Taylor, sorry, I know I've been holding you back.
That's okay. I get to get whipped a little bit by some little whippers, but I will say that I have in my life as an architect construction, I have never been given a design proposal that didn't have dimensions on it. That having been said, I knew that they had provided the dimensions previously on their first submission, which were the appropriate dimensions done by, can't remember, Brandon, the welder. Those were fine with me. I don't care about anything but the spacing and you know, things that pertain to the design review board in this particular case. We kept those in the packet so that you had the dimensions.
It should be though.
I'm sorry. They presented a new design at my request. They did what they were asked. The dimensions are on that first set of drawings. That's why I said to Mr. Bradbury, extrapolate, or maybe it wasn't him, but extrapolate the dimensions from the first drawing into the current drawing. That's the best we're going to get. They did show a photo of what they copied last time. I think they thought that sufficed because memory isn't that bad that people can't, you know, hold that in their head for over a month. This is frustrating because, well, for one thing, you know, they came and really didn't, okay, never mind. It's very frustrating. They have been held up. I don't think tabling it. I was going to suggest that if you want dimensions on that plan, they shouldn't have to wait another month to bring dimensions back. They could put dimensions on the plan. Apparently Tyler could do that in a few minutes. Put the dimensions on the plan and bring it to me for administrative approval if you approve the design. That's what I was basically getting at, because they brought a little string drawing the first time. They came back and did jump through every hoop I gave them. I didn't give them dimensions because they had already given us dimensions.
Right. The design is what I'm wondering. What is the design?
The design is
because it doesn't call it out.
I'm sorry?
It's not called out here. So I think that if we do a motion, we're gonna have to do a motion with the specific information that we have just,
Okay, that's fine. But the design was what they brought in that photo of the green stair from I think it was either Taylor or Brewery.
it was not, if you're not recalling accurately, but we never received it. We saw somebody pull it.
No, I sent in Tempe. I sent in 4 photos of Tempe, 4.
I realize that, Kathy, but we have not received that. That is not in.
It was in the original packet. If you lost 4 pages,
Kathy,
I'm moving.
this is more of an administrative issue. Did anybody else receive the design? Mr. Green, Mr. Gaffer, I mean, I'm looking at every single sheet. We didn't receive it the last time. It's not in here, so I don't even know what they're gonna put in there. So we have no idea on what the design is. I agree with the
I
demand.
have a question.
Yes.
If I may speak, I'm sorry. So I do see 3 drawings here, and then the one drawing that appears to be the old one with dimensions on it. So the 3 drawings that are provided, is that not the design proposed with the iron and composite?
It
It
is,
is
but
the design.
there's nothing called out.
Okay, if I may. We have hired Ben to do our architecture, and it can't start that until these simple stairs are installed. Tyler is already ripped the siding off our house permit. We can't proceed because he has no access other than walking to my living room and my kitchen and my living room and my kitchen and my living room and my kitchen to get to the exterior of my house. The only way to the exterior will be those stairs. So now Ben will start in January. Tyler, you're putting him on hold for another month. The stairs. Right, I'm putting a tap on the front. I'm repainting. I'm trying to get this done, and they can't get it in without going right where I'm sitting and going out the door. I'm in and out all day long. The stairs. It's just right when you put my hat in my new roofing aspect. You're gonna have plenty to deal with. These are just stairs. I'm done. I'll mute.
Mr.
Maybe
Taylor?
we could, sorry, maybe we could do you could do a motion with the certain things being administrative approval by Mr. Taylor. That way they don't have to wait. I mean, it is not fair to them that they can't access their home. And we did ask them everything that we asked of them, they sent us. So I think if I would hate to table it, that's my opinion, but if we could do a motion with administrative approval by Mr. Taylor for the design, dimensions, and whatever else you need. And then that way Tyler can get that to him and then he can approve it.
Mr. Gaffer?
Yeah, I'd be happy to make that motion.
Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to approve application 21-78, subject to final approval by the city planner of a dimensioned design.
I'll go ahead and second that.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Linda.
Okay. Next item is, or our items are new business. Agenda item number 3. We need to elect a chair for the design review board. And at this point, I think all we do is open the nomination for a chair. Oh, Mr. Perfect.
Hi, and thank you. I would like to nominate the chair position to go to Linda Santillanes. I know her personally. I know her professionally. I think her motives are strictly for the benefit of the people of Bisbee, and there are no other ties attached anywhere else. She has an extreme ethic as far as work is done, as far as being honest. She's also demonstrated in the last 2 or 3 meetings that she can handle proctoring of the meeting and getting things in control and underhand. So I would like to nominate Vice Chair Sonny for the chair position.
I concur with Mr. Perfect. I don't know if we don't yet have a motion, but as and when, I'd be happy to make one.
Go ahead, Mr. Gaffer. If everybody's fine with that.
Well, is there any other candidate? No? Anybody else want the job? Speak now? No? Okay, let's go. So I'm going to make a motion to elect Linda Santalandis as the chair of the Design Review Board.
All those in favor? Lori?
I said I second.
Favor?
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
I guess
Aye.
I will. I guess motion passes. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you for putting your trust in me. Now that the vice chair position, do we select somebody for vice chair?
At the next meeting.
At the next meeting, okay.
Is that not something that we can make a motion to go ahead and decide on who could be vice chair now?
No, sir, it was not agendized, so it can't be discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Can you just add that to the next month, Nina? I know you will, but I feel like I have to say that. Okay, thank you. So moving along, agenda item number 4, application 2177 Bisbee Residential Historic District, contributing property number 507, located at 34 Art Avenue. Applicant Tanya Borgeson. This application is seeking approval for replacement of portions of existing structure and new structure as shown in application. Rebuilding new roof line, new porch, and additional square footage as shown. The 300-foot notice went out on September 30th, 2021. Public comment? No comments at this time. Is that correct, Nina? I didn't see any.
No, there was no comments.
Okay. Pursuant to Bisbee zoning code article 3.5.2.a, the property owner is required to obtain approval from the DRB prior to the change of any building's exterior feature by remodeling or alteration and prior to any new construction within the district. The application presentation will happen at this time. And is Tonya Borgeson on, or a representative? Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hi, welcome to Bisbee Design Review Board. This is Tanya Borgeson, property owner of 34 Art Avenue. And as you can see in my application, I submitted, I think there was approximately 10 pages of images of the dilapidated collapsing structure that's on the property.
Sorry.
And as you can see through, if you you're getting some pictures of almost like a bird's eye view of the structure, and then some side views of the structure. The structure is up Art Avenue, which is a dead end road. It's tucked back, and it's a unique structure location because there's really not neighbors looking in at me from any direction. And so on page 2 there, you can see that it just kind of sits alone on this parcel of land. I'm now on, I flipped through a couple of pages there and just showing you on page 4 the condition of the building. There isn't any insulation. It's 2x2 construction. Most of the flooring is missing. Some of the flooring is just on the ground. Tiles just placed on the ground like an outside patio would be. And a lot of debris, no roofs, basically rubble-like condition of this building. I was told by the previous owner that nobody had lived there for approximately 15 years. So page 6 is just showing you again, like the flooring, which there is none, and roofing where there's no insulation at all. There's just old rafters that have been molding and falling apart for many years. There is some corrugated metal on one side for roofing and some wooden slat wood on other side for roofing with some tar paper tile or tar paper roofing shingles, tar paper shingles. I couldn't think of the shingles. And so it's just a real hodgepodge of materials put together to create this structure. None of the windows are in any working condition and most of them are broken out. Behind the building again, I'm looking on page 9, it just leads up to the hillside. So the back of the building, which would be the south side, there's nobody behind me, it's the mountain. And the west side is the side that is facing the Circle K or Tombstone Canyon Road. And my property purchased above the other property about 55 feet. And so there's a large retaining wall to a parking lot down below. So again, there's nothing, there's no other structures looking into this one from like window to window. So it is actually quite private. I have a list of exterior materials that I'll be using for the new construction. And looking into what's there, there's a good amount of foundational materials that can be used for the new construction. I'm gonna skip over the list of the materials and just have you take a peek at the architectural drawings that I've provided. This particular architectural drawing, it shows you that west view. So it shows you the front, but you're kind of getting a corner section of it. And this side of the property, again, lends to a rock retaining wall to a lower parking lot for the neighbors. That would be Circle K. And then this would be the front, which really nobody's in front of me. They're up the canyon some. The drawings on the top show the existing structure comparison. So I am adding a small amount of new structure just to make the whole new structure a rectangle. So it will not be rebuilt. This is that back portion where there was a bathroom and then tile just on the ground like a patio. And then this was like some type of a storage shed. So essentially taking this square footage, which is not going to be built. This part is just a retaining wall. I'm going to be requesting to add just to make one large rectangle, which is shown here. And then I have the other architectural drawings. So again, this is facing the mountain side. So this is the south side. So the mountain is right here. And then this is our Avenue Street side. This is the side that is going up the canyon. And when you look out these proposed doors, you see a retaining wall. it's cut in to the wall, that area, and then the next house is higher up the canyon. And then this is the view looking towards the mountains in Circle K. The last drawing that was included just gave the rectangular layout of the construction plan. This is the cross section, so you can see that the front of the building mimics, and then I have some windows here that allow light to come in, that again is at the back mountainside of the property. So my list of materials, I will go with board and batten, and the roofing will be corrugated metal. There is 17 windows, and I'll be using a double strength glass for that. And there's 2 exterior doors. Those will be panel doors with windows. And then there's 3 French doors with glass. And then the porch will be a wooden porch railing with top and bottom rail at 2.5, 2 inches by 2 inches vertical wood balusters. So I gave the images on my materials proposed, images of the windows that I'll be using, and then of the front door, and then of the French doors. The French doors are actually quite small. It's 48 by 80, so they're a miniature French door. And like I've explained when I laid this out, there isn't anybody, you would have to have a drone to see into the windows because of the way that the property is hidden. It's a really nice little piece of property. I did include a current and new survey of the entire property, showing the dimensions of my property that was recently done, the survey of the property that I own there. So that's my proposal, that I'll be salvaging as much of the exterior materials and using them within the new structure for architectural design. There really is very little there that isn't rotted or half chewed away from weathering. So I'll be using it all of the foundation that's there, that's salvageable, with some new foundation for the new construction that I explained in this diagram. So the white in here is the new areas that will be constructed. So there'll need to be foundation in these areas. Does anybody have any questions about the orientation of the building or anything that I've brought up?
Actually, I'm going to, if you your presentation, are you done with your presentation, Tonya?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to declare the public hearing open at this time, and we will receive any public comments. Is anybody on? Nina, did we receive? I don't think we did on this property from neighbors. Any public?
No, we didn't receive any public comment.
Okay, since nobody spoke up, I'll go ahead and close that.
Do you want me to jump in at this moment, or do you want to wait for me?
No, actually, I would like to hear the board members' comments first.
Sure.
If you don't mind, and then you come
Not
in
at all.
recommendation. Okay, now I'm going to open it up for the board members to discuss.
I have a comment.
Oh, let me let Savannah speak first, only because she had her hand up first.
Sure. Thank you. So I have a question when it comes to the list of exterior materials, in particular with the 17 windows. There, I see, the dimensions. However, I don't see the listed materials for the frames or what the exact style would be for those, and if they would be similar to the historic ones that they're, essentially replacing. So if you could shed some light on that for us.
Sure. So on the number 3 of the list of exterior, it's a full welded frame and sashes, heavy duty multi-cavity construction. And it says it ensures the strength and durability. These are the upper and lower movable windows. And since they're the modern window, they come out so you can clean the inside and the outside. So there's a tilting lower sash.
So they're welded. Is it an aluminum? Is it a steel? Is it a vinyl? What material is that then?
Sure, these are fiberglass.
Fiberglass. Okay. Thank you.
Lori?
Yeah, well, I want to thank you, Tanya, for this thorough presentation. I did see the house, and I also want to commend you for wanting to rehabilitate the house and keep it, because it is something of a mess. So yeah, I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to say, I think the windows that you're proposing, they seem to be double hung windows would be acceptable. You're probably not going to get wooden ones. You're going to get new ones. So it doesn't seem that the sizes are out of scope with the guidelines. No, I think it's an exciting project, and I'm very happy that you're taking it on.
Thank you.
Any other comments from board members?
Yeah, I'd like to commend Tanya on her project there. It's a stark different situation than we had earlier today. There's a lot of work to be done there to remediate the old part of that building. But here we have an applicant who's prepared to take that on and not tear it down, which is commendable. So I'm in full support of this application.
Thank you.
Any other
Wonderful.
questions or comments from board members, Mr. Perfect?
I just would like to comment that this is a very, very ambitious project, and I want to give accolades to Tanya for taking on the project, and I do appreciate the thoroughness of the drawings that you had submitted for this application.
Wonderful, thank you.
I can only agree with my colleagues. I don't envy you one little bit, but yeah, good luck with it. I think it'll be a great little property when you're all done.
Any other board members? Any comment? Okay. I have oh, Savannah?
I just wanted to say that it is also commendable. I agree. It definitely is a big project, and the fact that you're using board and batten and things. Sort of back to the windows, my only small concern here is just the material of fiberglass isn't a historical material when it comes to doors or windows, and that's my only concern when it comes to materials for this project.
Green? Oh, I see you come up, so maybe it was just a sound. Does anybody, well, Mr. Taylor, I'll get to you in a second. So I also want to commend you, Tanya, for what you're doing. You said a couple of things. You said double strength windows, but I'm guessing you're talking about dual pane windows where you have two pieces of glass, the space, a cavity in between. Okay. You said something about your French doors are small and they were 48 by 80. Is that both of them together? So you have 24-inch panels?
Correct. The whole,
are you gonna-
the whole width is 48 inches.
Okay, so is that everywhere, or are you gonna have, I guess it's more of a Doug comment, getting egress. I won't go into that because I know that in the past, typically don't do that, but 36 inches would be, well, 32 inches completely clear from any obstructions is the absolute minimum. So 42, especially if one's locked in, if there's some pivot lock, I would imagine that that might be an issue, but just keep that in mind whenever you go in for a permit. And the last question I have is, there's going to be an awful lot of demolition on this project. I just want to know what remains, what walls remain.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, realistically, you're going to get the wall. If you're looking at, let's go to a picture here. I'll grab one. So let's look at this picture. It's on page 1. The electrical panels on this wall, right? So structurally, this section of this wall will stay the same, right? The back of the structure is essentially the same placement of the new wall, right? But there is no materials that that can be used to build a wall, right? The materials are so in bad condition that the placement of the wall will be on the foundation of the existing structure. But the materials, they're not even like 2x4s, right? There are 2x2s and nailed together for not every single one of them, but it was just like a hodgepodge of materials created to get a certain height or to get what we would think of as like a 2x4. And so, I mean, realistically, you're looking at the front wall, right? This section and the foundation. The only other wall that we don't really know about would be, this is the same, this section, so it's page 2. This is the same, it's the same wall. I'm not moving it out or moving it in. It falls on the same foundation. And once we dig into this, right, because I don't know what's behind the plaster on the inside, if any of this can be saved, absolutely, right? But this whole corner, right, that's the inside of the living room. The new foundation will come out to make the square here. So those will be removed because they're in the inside of the building. So the only wall we don't really know about is this wall right here for how it looks inside. When you go to the other side of the property, right, you're looking at these style walls, right? So this is the other side, and then there's a big window that's like it opens like this, and so it takes up the majority of that wall in the existing structure. So again, there isn't really much wall there because the window that's in the existing is the majority. It's on page 10. It's so big for the whole space. Like the window is an extremely big window that's in the original structure. So does that help?
Well, for all intents and purposes, you'll probably demolish about 80 to 90% of the structure and rebuild it.
Correct.
I'll just, this is my opinion, but I will say that I don't, the only difference I see between this one and the one previously was or previously presented, is that she has a plan for exactly what she wants to do. And I commend you for that. It's it's easy to understand. Let me see where I'm at. Okay, if there are no more board member questions or comments, then Mr. Taylor. Mr. Taylor.
It is on my wish list that these quirky minor cabins could continue. I wish that this was being rebuilt to the original configuration and materials. That'd be cool, because people come to Bisbee to see those odd little odds and ends, and it's part of the historic fabric. That being said, the application's very thorough and not unlike new construction that you've approved previously. Although the applicant has assured me in the past in our meetings that the original configuration materials will be used as much as possible. So I don't know if it's really, I believe this would, if this is a 90% tear down, which I didn't understand it to be, then I would say this isn't any different than the other than there's a great end product that we can see. If they had stuck with the other one, would the board have approved it if they had stuck with the construction drawings that had been presented that were in your packet? If they had continued, I don't know, but it is something to think about going forward, that maybe a good presentation is gets you extra points. I don't know. I don't think it's, and I may ask the applicant if this is okay. I didn't think it was that much tear down. Is that you've kind of come to that conclusion on the investigation?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna try to save as much as we can. I've had the opportunity to get involved in 2 other projects here, and that's exactly the focus that we took. For one thing, to be responsible with the materials that I have, and to not need to purchase new ones when we can use existing materials only makes sense. There's just so much of the conditioning of the building that is in such bad repair. It's just the reality of what we're looking at.
Can you do me a favor and coordinate, after you get the permit, coordinate what you're taking out with the building inspector, so we know that it isn't indeed a tear down like the other one would have been?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have no problem, keeping Joe Ward in the loop at all times.
That would be great, I think. And Madam Chairman, to address your point about the doors, I think that they're not means of egress. I think they're more like ventilation openings. So I think that dimension works. Am I right that, I'll ask the applicant again, am I right that they're not means of egress?
No, the egress would be the front and the back door, which
So
are your regular size 3 foot by
80 inches.
Yeah, I
Yeah, you're
have it.
good.
And then the other ones just give you a cross, 3 foot by 80. They give you a cross ventilation between, let me grab this. So in this particular, right, so you got the front door and the back door, right? Let me see if I make sure. Yeah. And then here's the French door looking out over to Circle K, and then the French door looking, it's actually the opposite there, I'm sorry. The French door looking over to Circle K, which drops down because of the retaining wall, and then this one looks over to the retaining wall that's on my property.
Does that satisfy, Madam Chairman, your question?
Yes, yes, I was just looking for that means of egress. But it really is, it's the inspector's thing, just like so if you have those ventilation doors, he's gonna have to make a determination on the square inches, for egress, but I think, under emergency, but I think it all meets it, so I'm good with that.
And I'm done.
I would like to be fair to every applicant, and so that was really my only issue. Savannah, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I had a question about then the two exterior doors. Is that the photo provided next to the French doors? And are those also fiberglass, or what material are those?
I have no opposition for them to be a wood door. I was just gonna go with a metal door that you can paint, but I have no problem using a wood door. The wood doors that are actually in the property, like the front door, and then there is a back door. I plan to use those interior wise as I rebuild. But I just put on there 2 exterior doors, panel door with windows. And so, fiberglass or metal is what I had used. I have metal on my French door on one of the properties, and then a fiberglass one on the other property that I reconditioned.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious as to what, the plan was for those.
Mhm.
Okay, if we don't have any more comments from the board, yes? I heard somebody make a sound, okay. Can somebody make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Gaffer.
Yeah, if I can find, I've lost my, but got my pages out of order, sorry. Oh, here we go. Application, make a motion to approve application number 21-77 as presented.
I'd like to second that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any indifference?
I'd like to make a statement. Yeah. So yeah, I'm voting nay. I just want to say that I'm not against most of what is there. I'm in agreement of it. I would simply like to see more information as to the doors and windows used, and possibly more historic materials.
So Nina, that's 4 yeas, 2 nays. Thank you, Savannah. Motion passes.
Who was the second nay?
Me,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
in the spirit of being fair. Though this is a little different because you did have your final product. I do see a huge amount of demo. And so I have to agree with Mr. Taylor on that. It would be nice to keep the miner's shack. I'm glad you're going to be using a lot of the product that's there, because I have seen a lot of doors that can be reused. So I'm happy about that. But it is going to be pretty much new construction, completely different design. Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Thank you,
Okay,
Tanya.
oh, sorry. Mr. Perfect?
I just said thank you, Tanya.
Oh, okay. Agenda item number 5, which it says 4, but 9, I'm just going to jump up from here on out. Okay. Application 2184, Bisbee Residential Historic District, non-contributing property number 118, located at 108 Taylor Avenue. Applicant Carl and Nancy, is it Hubbard or Hubert? Hubbard.
Hubert.
Hubert, thank you. This application is seeking approval for the following: enclosed existing porch, build a 16 by 12 shed that would be located in the northeast corner under the large trees. The 300-foot notification went out on October 19, 2021. Public comments, we received 2 in support of the application. Pursuant to Bisbee Zoning Code Article 3.5.2.a, the property owner is required to obtain approval from the DRB prior to the change of any building's exterior feature by remodeling or alteration and prior to any new construction within the district. Public hearing, application presentation. Will the applicant, Mr. Hubert, go ahead and present? Thank you.
Well, I can see I underdid my drawings. A lot of people have done some real nice work there, but it is what it is. So project 1, it's our home at 108 Taylor. And if you see the overview, it clearly points out where the existing porch is. And what we want to do is enclose that. We have a small house and it's dark. And by putting in windows and a garage door on that 8x14 already there porch, it would just give us a lot more space. Sam Presley built this house in 1990. And he actually went as far as putting the travertine tile outside with floor heat in it. So he had ideas of doing that back then. So anyway, that's project number 1. We would use 2 sliding glass doors to the north and the south. They would be wooden and metal clad. Probably white because that's what everything else is. It's not my favorite color, but and then we're hoping for a garage door of some sort. You've seen them, bars or different places, modern garage doors that would go to the east. So basically we could open up our whole house, wide open, to the garden and looking across the gulch. So the garage door would probably have 12 panels. Oh, there's a before and after. A friend of mine did AutoCAD, and last year we were going to do windows like that, but it got to be $6,000 a piece. So we're going garage door, hopefully, with your approval. And we are going to change the roof line just a little bit, raise it up about 1 foot. And by the way, I'm going to be doing this project myself, along with the shed. I have a busy winter ahead of me. So raise it up, it's going to be the same pitch. It's a very low pitch now, probably a 312, I would guesstimate. But we're going to just raise the whole thing up 1 foot to let more light into the existing home. So there is the first project. Project 2 is a shed. A number of years, we bought this all in 2015. We bought the adjoining lot to the north, which shows on this drawing again, where the shed is going to go. It was a mess. It was completely caved in. Opera Drive was about ready to fall into our lot. We rebuilt the wall. We got this lot looking pretty nice now. Planted a lot of trees. We're going to put hopefully a 12 by 16 shed there. It's going to be made. I just scored a bunch of recycled material from the old church on Clawson. 2x3s, we have so many 2x3s. So it's going to be built out of those. It's going to be built out of, it's going to have a galvanized roof with some clear panels. I also have, this has changed since I made the application, but there will be a few windows in it. that we got from the church itself over on Clausen. So that we're gonna add a few windows to this shed. And as you see on this piece of paper, I was planning on simply doing a paver floor, cement posts in with the pavers on the floor, and then start building from there. Let's see, is there anything else I've forgotten? And once again, my apologies about the lack of detailed drawings. I see how you do it now. Any comments?
Okay, I am going to interrupt here. Thank you very much, Mr. Hubert. Oh, okay. I'm going to open it up now to public hearing. So if anybody has any public comments, anybody from the neighborhood, community, I don't see any. So I will go ahead and close that, and I am closing the public hearing. And then we'll call, oh, sorry, Jane? Jane Powell?
No, no comment. Thank you.
Okay, you might want to mute yourself. Then I'll declare the public hearing closed. Now call for board member discussion. Any board members? Any questions?
Ms.
Mr. Perfect.
I just have a question. I had been to the Huber property yesterday and saw the quality of Mr. Hubert's construction. He has done some really fine work with all reclaimed lumber and so forth, and it really lends itself to the old miner shacks. But the one thing that I would like to hear a discussion from the board on is the garage door. And number two, Carl, we really don't have any drawings whatsoever for the shed. Is this something that you're going to be building as you go, or do you have a plan in mind? Is this a fly by the seat of your pants type construction?
Well, thank you. It is fly by the seat of my pants construction. I'll be the first to admit.
Okay.
We acquired all that beautiful reclaimed lumber that you saw the piles of.
I did see.
Yeah, and what I'm starting to think about is stacking 2x3s like that on top of my foundation. For a look, I got a lot of them, and go up at least 2 feet there, and then start with other windows, siding, clear panels. It's going to be, and then I don't think I showed you, Scott, the other windows. Linda and Lori did see those today, all out of the. So it's totally local Bisbee, every bit of it. But no, I don't have a detailed drawing, and I am going to do it by the seat of my pants.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments from the board? Savannah?
I do have a question about a similar thing concerning the shed. You did provide a picture. It said picture of siding to be used, but there we see multiple different kinds of it. And you said that you would be using some reclaimed wood from the Clausen. But also here there's exposed, I think, mini corrugated metal. Is that something that you're planning on putting on the exterior?
The corrugated metal, yes. Hopefully old, reclaimed, rusty. We already have a bunch of it on our house right now on the addition we've done in the past.
Okay. And then the other question I had concerning, I see it says wind rated steel or aluminum. I'm not sure if this is a window or the garage door that I'm looking at here. You can sort of see a reflection in this one, and it's long rectangles. Can you sort of explain further that particular? I can see if I can show it to you. This one here.
Yeah, that would be the garage door that would be in the front of our house, project one,
Okay,
along with 2 sliding glass doors.
okay.
Yeah, and so that's going to be, open it right up and we'll be living outside.
That does sound nice.
Mhm.
Yes, so those are my questions on this one. Essentially, the I'm not exactly sure the regulation of having exposed metal on the outside of a home. I do know that I've been told by a few people that that's not you know ideal. So that's a little bit of a red flag for me.
Mhm.
Mr.
Well, I don't know.
Perfect. Oh, sorry. Mr. Hubert, did you want to add to that? Otherwise, we'll go with Mr. Perfect.
I'd say one thing, and we've done some research on this garage door. And it's going to be wood metal clad, just like a good wood metal clad sliding glass door, or any, I wish I had them in all the way through the house. But that's, what the garage door would be. Just certain, about 12 panels of that.
Sure. And I when it comes to the exposed metal, I'm referring to the shed itself of having the metal sheets on the exterior of that building.
Oh yeah, that would be rusty galvanized, and like the rest of our house.
I can answer that question. That isn't acceptable. Savannah.
There's
We have a lot of that all around Bisbee, so that is acceptable.
There is. Okay, all right. So I wasn't
Just
quite
depends on
sure
how
when
you
it comes
install
to-
it and if you do the weatherproofing, but it is definitely acceptable. Mr. Perfect.
Okay.
Right.
I just wanted to say about the galvanized steel on the exterior of the shed is that Mr. Ewer already has a built-on addition that will be right across from the shed that is totally galvanized steel, corrugated steel. So it's gonna tie in well with the rest of the house as it is now.
And
thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I believe he has 2 on site. One is right as you drive up, and then the other one's in the backside. Is that correct, Mr. Hubert?
That's correct. One is a bedroom, one is a jewelry shop.
Right.
Mhm.
Any other comments from board members?
Yeah, Lynn.
Mr. Gaffer.
Yeah, Linda, I hear everything that the applicant is saying, and I think it's a very worthy job. And it is a non-contributing structure. However, I do also think that he, and maybe now he's got a flavor of what we really like to see in terms of drawings. He is a little bit deficient, I'm afraid. And one of the red flags is, well, I've changed my mind and we're going to add windows. I mean, we go nuts when we hear that, because we really, if we're going to have any sort of consistency, which is very, very difficult for the DRB, I think that I basically approve it in spirit, but in practice, I'm going to suggest, I don't know what the other board members think, that maybe we ask him to come back in a month's time with a little bit more detail. I'm not quite clear. I think I understand the idea of the garage door to roll up and expose have an open air front. But I do think that the board deserves a little bit more detail. And of course, the shed, a thumbnail sketch just doesn't quite cut it. And that's a shame, because I do think that the application has a lot of merit.
Mr. Green? Mr. Go ahead.
I was just gonna talk to Peter for a second, Mr. Gaffer. Some of the windows he's saying are going to be salvaged windows, and I believe they were from the church. He could block in where the windows are going to be. To me, that would be acceptable, as long as he provided a photograph of the windows that can actually be in the places. Does that sound acceptable to you, Peter?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, I think we all know what we want to see, which is, you know, there will be inevitably in any building, there are some changes during construction and we accept that, but just a little bit more to put our stamp of approval on to get going. I think that would be right, and I think it would be show a modicum of consistency within the DRB for a change.
Peter, I agree with you, and I like seeing the direction that we're going in. Just 3 different projects today were about discussions of how complete the drawings were, which are vital to us to understand exactly what we're voting against or voting for.
Yeah.
So, and I like the direction that I'm seeing that's going.
May I make a comment?
Well, come on, get
Okay.
through this.
Hi.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Hi. You know, I understand wanting to see a drawing and this and that, but sometimes when you have a hole for a window, it means buying something from Home Depot and sticking it in there. When you're salvaging stuff, this isn't necessarily a thing anybody's going to actually live in. It's going to look like it's been there 200 years. And I think sometimes you have to be a little bit more freeform when you're finding things, as long as the structure's standing and solid and everything. But it's not as easy as just going to Home Depot and finding something to pop in that hole, you know? That's all I had to say. Thank you.
I don't think I mean, you obviously have a window in mind. We just
Yes.
like to see it, and I agree with you. This isn't a Home Depot special, and that's why I like the project so much. But just give us something to hang on to, please.
Well, I could do that. I was hoping to get started, but I can do that.
Mr. Green, did you have any comments?
Yeah, my sentiments are the same as Peter's, really. You know, a little bit more information on that shed, and we'd be much more informed as to what it's going to look like. We want to know what it's going to look like. And a line drawing like that doesn't give us really any idea. It just says a shape, not what it looks like. So if he can give us more detail on that, I think that's all we need to make this application complete.
I have a question for
Go ahead.
board. So is there any concern about the garage door? I have a little bit of concern about the garage door. It just seems very much out of place. But I'm, you know, I could be convinced otherwise. I understand the spirit of it, and I think it's a great idea for opening up the house, but it does look like something from a mechanic's shop or something like that, you know?
If I may speak.
For Doug. Doug, I'm going to make a comment and then we'll come around to you.
I was going to answer her question.
Oh, you can answer the question. Go ahead.
This is something, Lori, that I think, well, there's, you know what, I'll hold it and I'll answer everything at once.
Are you going to wait?
I'll wait.
Okay. Okay. I was just going to say, I commend you for what you're doing. I think that shed's going to be fabulous, and I agree with Mr. Perfect in that if you can do an elevation of each side, provide the opening size, let's say a 3x5 or a 2x4 or whatever the size of your windows are. And you already have those predetermined because we saw them out there. So I think if you do that, then it'll be a lot easier for everybody to understand because the floor plans are easy to understand. We can see that they're 12x16. You have these elevations, but go ahead and just show the areas where you're going to be placing those windows and a photograph of the window. So just show the photo as number 1, where it's going to be located, and that should suffice. The only thing that I saw, and I said it to you earlier today, was, and this would be more of a permit type issue. So Doug, you can answer this one as well. I know that it's just a shed, but it's 6 feet on one side. So if it's going to be a working shed, you might want to raise it to 80 inches. That'll give you your head clearance and you can use it as a shop. Let's see, as far as the main house, I don't necessarily have an issue. I mean, you're using really sturdy product. It's going to look similar to the existing windows. And I don't know if maybe instead of having just the slats, maybe if it would be acceptable to the board, maybe have division in them. So it looks like there's more windows in there, but you know, that's just, it's a design. It's just a comment from me. I guess we have a still question from Savannah.
More of just a comment in response to Ms. Gannell. I agree with you. I like the idea and the sentiment behind this. It does concern me a little bit just because the facade is more horizontally based, whereas, you know, in historic Bisbee, it tends to be more vertical. So if there was any way to sort of make the facade look or fit more into the historic, you know, look of Bisbee, that would help as well. But I'm also in agreement with Mr. Gaffer that it would be very helpful to have more information and we could actually see what we're approving rather than just sort of guessing at that.
I kind of disagree with that only because we have both verticals and horizontals.
Okay.
Mostly in the pitches on
Mhm.
adjacent on either side. A lot of the wood, almost everything is horizontal. We definitely do not accept like the T111, which is all vertical. But it's just, you know, it's an opinion disagreement. It's not that important. Mr. Taylor.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about is the proposals. You can see that this one isn't what you wanted it to be, but I can't dictate to someone applying. I think it would be completely unfair if I say, don't apply because they won't pass this. I can't do that. So we take all the proposals, we try to make sure they're complete, but we take them all at face value. If they're missing something, we try to get back to them. I will get to the shed in a moment. This is a 1990, Mr. Hubert, is that right? 1990 building. It's going to be an interesting backflip to see how the board wants to deal with a modern contemporary structure within an historic district. If you said to me, let's put a garage door with glass in it and a porch with 2 sliders on any historic home in this town, I would tell you that can't happen. He is proposing it for a building with like detailing, and you have to decide how that goes. I'm not making a comment on that because that's really your decision. The other aspect of it is the shed, and Ms. Hubert hit it on the head, I think. How does one come to, and I hope they can, the board with a freeform building that, and I'm not arguing, I'm just saying that this is another mind bender that you have to deal with. They come to you with a freeform building that's going to grow as time goes on. It is the way that this town came together. It's the way that the tent was built, and then the miners covered the tent space with 1x12 boards, put battens up so the wind didn't blow through, and then put canvas on the inside. It is the way that eventually the ancient world, let's say until about 1900, and maybe a little after, was built. And how do we allow that sort of free spirit and free indigenous or generic, or let's call it Carpenter Gothic, how do we allow that to exist with all the other, here's how you put it together, here's what it needs to look like? I didn't make him do a window. I didn't know there were going to be windows in it, to tell you the truth, but I didn't make him do an elaborate drawing when really what he showed, you know, it looked like he could do a free-form building on used materials. If you want to use materials, it almost has to be, if it's going to be free-form, has to be done after the fact. That's me. That's it.
And I'd like to add a comment to that. If you went up there and saw not just the work that they've done, but the quality of the work, it's impressive. It's beautiful. They're really
I have seen
trying
it.
to, I would say they're really trying to merge that 1990 more modern look with Bisbee. They have done everything in their power to change it to reuse product. Oh my gosh, it's been fascinating just walking through there. Every niche, every little corner, there's always, it's a surprise everywhere you go. So I commend you for doing that. That's,
You wanted to encourage that going forward. How do, as a board, how do you encourage someone, and in this case, you feel that you know his work, that's a plus. But how do you encourage this free form? This is just a philosophical question, but it is something I think will come up more often.
And that's what attracts people to Bisbee. They like to be odd when they go on the corner, you know?
and yours is polished odd. There's nothing truly odd about your
No,
work.
I think she means AWED, not ODD.
Polished odd.
So anyway, does somebody, well, one of the issues that I have here is we have two completely different projects. And I don't know if those should have been split so that we can approve one or the other, or if they just resubmit everything all over again. I guess that's kind of the question, Mr. Taylor, coming from the building side.
And it becomes an issue of how many times do they pay the fee? If we could, I'm sure that they bundled it, and I'm sure that the Harmons bundled theirs because they want to put it on one permit. Ms. Borgensen bundled hers, and it's an entire house. So we couldn't just say, let's take the front porch. And so I don't know. That's another philosophical question. I think we have a lot of those. It's kind of exciting that we do, but people are going to get hurt as the big wheel rolls over them if they have to pay extra money or don't get their stairs for 2 months or 3 months. I think it's been like 2 months at least now. So how do we provide for them, provide for creativity and economy? It's an odd, and you guys, that's a job and a half. Mr. Gaffer thought it was a hard job to build Art Avenue. I think it's a harder job to think how the board's going to go going forward.
Sorry, Mr. Hubert.
I'm just all listening to you guys.
I'll get right back to you, Mr. Perfect. But what I'm thinking is, kind of like the fences. The fences really, we have guidelines. The guidelines don't mean that they're set in concrete, because fences are like an art project. So we do like approving the fences because we never really know where the applicant is coming from. Sometimes they look at something and they think that those are the only options, and they're not. I would rather not see all picket fences. I would like to see some sort of variety in there, to make each home unique. So in this case, what I would like to do is open it up to the board to see what kind of comments they have. And we can do it quickly so we're not here all night long, but I'll start with Mr. Perfect because I think Mr. Perfect had a comment.
I just have one comment, and this is, I guess, addressing you, Doug, just a little bit there, and the rest of the board, I'm sorry, I don't see why we can't approve one portion of this project as it is, and then take into consideration that we make provisions that certain drawings are required, and then they're presented to Doug. Well, I guess that doesn't make sense because
they could come back to the board if it works for the Huberts. They could, let's say, get the porch approved and then come back with the shed so that they start on the porch, and then by the time the next 1 month from now, the next board meeting, they'll probably get an okay to keep going.
I think that's a good idea because it reduces a redundancy of filing a whole new application, not only for the monies, but also for the procedure itself.
Yeah. I agree.
And I don't think I would be so lenient if I hadn't seen the work and what they're trying to achieve and the detail in which he explained.
Mhm.
So, Mr. Gaffer, Mr. Green, I would like to hear from you as far as your opinion as to maybe how we do this, but I kind of like the idea of passing the one and then having them come back after they've talked to Mr. Taylor and do the final presentation of the shed, because obviously that part wasn't thought out. The other part was clearly thought out.
I think
Mr. Gaffer?
Oh, okay. I'm okay with dividing the project into two parts as described by the applicant. And I'm certainly okay with approving the first part. I would like it to come back to the board, however. I don't think something of this size and complexity should automatically just go to Mr. Taylor, even though
I
Mr.
agree.
Taylor
I agree.
probably way more qualified than anybody on the board to actually adjudicate. But that's the nature of what we do, and that's why we're appointed, and that's why we're on the board. So I think it has to come to us. But if we can make a motion that will do that, then the applicant can get going on part one, and he'll only be delayed 30 days for part two.
Okay, Mr. Green, and then I'll probably ask Mr. Gafford to make that motion, if that works out for everybody. Mr. Green, your comments?
Okay, my comment very similar to Peter's. I think we should approve part one. The use of the contemporary materials are going to match the other materials in the home. It's a non-contributing structure, so from that point of view, I don't think there's a lot of problem with that. The detail for the shed and the used materials that are going to go into that is great. We just need to have an image of what is going to be constructed, a decent drawing, some photographs of some of the materials they already have on hand at the next meeting, and I think we can just pass that as a separate section of this application.
Would you like to make that motion if nobody else has any comments or questions? Go ahead, Mr. Green.
Okay, I'll make a motion then that we, agenda item number 4, application 21-84 at 108 Taylor Avenue. Project 1 as presented is approved as presented. Project 2, building of the 16 by 12 shed, will have better drawings and imagery to support what it's going to look like at our next meeting for further approval.
Okay, so I'm going to make a tiny little administrative correction. It's agenda item number 5.
Yeah.
That's for Nina.
Okay.
I know it says 4 on there, but it's really 5.
It's really number 5, yes, sorry.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Well, we have a second.
I'd like to
Oh,
second.
sorry. Second.
Second it.
Okay,
Peter,
perfect. Did you second it?
I thought I did, but did Peter get me?
Now, over to you, Scott. It's all yours.
Okay, all right, I'll second it.
All right, I got excited. Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Unanimous. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Hubert.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll get you a real nice drawing on the shed.
We're looking forward to it.
And we
Okay.
have more time to find cool stuff for it too.
Yeah, don't give them too much time.
I would say we're only looking for openings.
Oh, okay.
What's going to actually be hanging on there, because you've already said that you're going to use the metal cladding and wood. So just call those two things out, and the simpler for us, the better. If you're going to attach things to it later, that's yours.
Okay.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chairman, Madam Chairman, may I
Yes,
make
sir.
a comment?
You may.
I think that you may want the siding, you may want it called out so that they don't run into the same problem we ran into today.
Gotcha.
Right. So the wood and the metal that you were talking about, those need to be written on the drawing, as well as the openings, the size of the photographs of all of your antiques, your antique windows.
Okay.
If you don't have one for one area, just call out the side and just call it out as a fixed.
Okay,
I'd like.
I'm
Okay?
antique window. but they're-
I'll do a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
agenda item number 5, that's actually number 6. Application 2187 Bisbee Historic District, significant structure B, is that BI or B1 or BI-34? Located at 6 Main Street, applicant City of Bisbee, Copper Queen Library, manager Jason Makoviak. The application is seeking approval to,
I mean, I remember that one being on there. He works at the library.
I can hear
That one was
you,
on there.
whoever's speaking,
Mute.
just put mute on there. Thank you. Okay, this application is seeking approval to add a 4-foot rail to the 2nd and 3rd floor balconies. Pursuant to Bisbee zoning code article 3.5.2.a, the property owner is required to obtain approval from the DRB prior to the change of any building's exterior features. Applicant, representative will present their applicant or representative will present their application to the board. So Mr. Makovic?
It's Makoviak, you're very close.
Makoviak, there we go. Go ahead.
Well, good evening, everyone. And my name is Jason Makoviak. I'm the library manager at the Copper Queen Library. So we're looking to add a 4th rail to both the 2nd and 3rd floor balconies so that we can safely use those spaces as public space. So the current rails are, they're 3-inch threaded painted black pipe. And so we would use the same material to add the 4th rail. The current height of the railings are just 33 inches. And by adding a 4th one, it would be, it would get up to about a 42-inch height, which would meet code for railing height. So that's what we would like to do. If anyone has questions.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. At this time, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Does anybody have any public comments on this? Okay, so I'm going to close it. Discussion. And Mr. Taylor, since I have cut you off the entire night, I'm going to go first this time.
No, I don't want to. I'm sorry. I do want to say, and I think that since we still have the building inspector with us, I think he might agree with me on this one, that it's very difficult to meet modern building codes in historic buildings. And I think this proposal does that extremely well. I've done this most of my life, and I think this is in the top 10 solutions. I really, and I was there when they came up with it. We were there as a group, but I think it was Jason that came up with the actual solution. It's really a good solution. It's continuing the look, meeting code. That never happens. So I'm really happy this is the way it's going to go. And that building may be our premier landmark in this town. It's at least in the top 3. And I think that, hey, I've been doing a lot of top things. That's great. But I think this is a great one. I support it completely.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. I'm going to open it up to the other board members.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Santillanes. I would just like to say I agree 100% with Doug's comments, especially since they're matching exactly the existing railing that's there. And I could find no fault whatsoever with the plans and construction of this project itself. I think it was a great solution.
I agree. I think it's a no-brainer.
Anyone else have any comments? I also commend you, Jason. I think it's fabulous what you're doing. Good luck on that rubble area. That'll need, just a little bit of a care so it doesn't crumble on you, but I think it's fabulous. So if somebody would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Oh, all right. I'll make a motion.
Oh, wait, did I probably skipped a whole bunch of things like,
Oh.
No, I think I opened it up for public discussion. Nobody said anything. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 6, application 21-87 as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay. Second, all in favor, say aye.
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 None opposed. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
In
for
case
waiting.
you get to go away with it, a no-brainer.
That's
Okay.
exciting.
We like
I'm
that.
gonna move this along. Okay, agenda item number 6, which is actually number 7, application 2188, Bisbee Residential Historic District located at 515 Tombstone Canyon, Apartment D. Applicant Leticia Garcia. 514 Tombstone Canyon is a contributing structure number 378. This application is seeking approval for window replacement 8 total. Pursuant to Bisbee zoning code article 3.5.2.a, the property owner is required to obtain approval from the DRB prior to the change of any building's exterior feature. Applicant representative will present their application to the board. So go ahead, Leticia. I know you've been waiting a long time.
Yes, yes, I have the property at 514 Tombstone Canyon. So it's going to be changing 8 windows that are non-operational. They've got frame damage, cracking, just a lot of excessive paint. It's made it very difficult to open and close. So that's what I want to do, is just replace them all with the vinyl single hung windows. And in the bedroom, it would be sliding, because that's what was originally there, is the sliding windows.
Okay. If you're done with your presentation, I'm going to open it up right now to public discussion. Anybody from the community? No? Okay, then I will close that discussion and I'll open it up to board members to ask questions or make comments. Anyone? Okay, Savannah.
I had mentioned this before on the 2 different applications, but I see here that these are historic wood windows. And I know Ms. Garcia is proposing to replace them with vinyl. I just think it's, I'm wondering if there's any precedent there as to why it couldn't possibly be replaced with something of a historic material as well, so as to maintain that historical attribute of the home.
Well, at this point, with the wood, it's just over the years, it just gets weathered. And so I'm trying to keep it, just update it a little bit more, so that they stay functional longer. The wood tends to rot over time. And so I'm just have better luck with the vinyl.
Leticia, are those vinyl clad wood windows?
What was your question again?
Are those vinyl clad wood windows? So wood windows, with vinyl surround on them.
It's vinyl.
Just
vinyl and glass.
Okay, then the other question I have on those, are they operable at all?
No, the ones I have, they're just, if you look at the pictures in the back, it shows the rot, how they've rotted, and they've had holes over the years. I've had the building for 15 years and I haven't changed those windows. So just over the time, they've continued to become less functional. At this point, we can't even move them up when it's, when the weather's bad, especially like in the monsoons, they just cannot be moved up and down. And they're dangerous because once they go up, you have to hold them up. If you let them drop, they will drop. The glass will break, and you know, they're just dangerous at this point, the way that they stand now.
Okay, I have some other questions. Is this entire property yours?
Yes, it is.
And, okay, so I noticed that there's the windows you're talking about. I don't know if it's the only apartment that still has the original ones. There may be some on the ground floor.
Yeah, it is the only apartment that still has the originals.
Okay, so when I looked at the windows that you were proposing, I didn't see any of those muttons. And not that I care for little metal muttons inside of the glass. I certainly do care about the overall look. And on your sliding, that's one of them. So I guess that's the question. Are you going to have that vertical little piece in there?
The windows that I proposed do not have that, and it wasn't an option with this company. But what I found out is that I've gone to Home Depot and I talked to the person who sells the windows. I asked them, is it possible to get, what did you refer to it as?
Mutton, M-U-T-T-O-N.
Okay, and that's the.
M-U-T-T-I-N, sorry.
Is that the vertical strip?
Yes, just a little vertical strip.
So I was able to find something, and I have I'm just not able to show you on the screen, but I found a composite material, PVC composite material, and it's a molding. And he says that that is something that you can use for the mutton. And so I looked it up and I just researched it a bit and went into the comments, and they said, yes, it is used for the mutton. I didn't know that that was the term for it, but yes, it's that vertical strip.
So I'm just going to give you my opinion on the structure as a whole. I know we're talking about just one apartment, but I would really, really like it if the entire building looked the same. Right now, what you're proposing isn't something that's on the building. A lot of those windows have been replaced. I don't know if they're all 100% vinyl. I would hate to see 100% vinyl. I wouldn't mind seeing wood windows with vinyl covering, vinyl cladding.
Yeah. At this point, they are all vinyl.
Yeah, those don't last that long either. So that was my concern on that. My concern is that the entire building doesn't look the same. If you use these, you have one window in here that rolls open, I think, and that doesn't match anything. And since your building is so symmetrical, that's going to look really unusual, where it has the plate glass in the middle, and then it you have the mechanism and it opens on both sides. So I'm having a problem with that.
I'm not sure what you're talking about on that. I'm
trying to see where your list of new windows.
Very last page.
Is it the very last page?
Yeah, this one.
Oh, these are the photographs. So let me look at.
What is this?
Oh, no, that was just showing that was just showing the name of the company, Plygem Windows and Doors, where I got it from. That was just showing the company, which is Plygem from Home Depot.
Okay,
But that's
so
not the
decorative.
picture
That
of
is
it.
not one of them.
No, that when you flip it over and it says classic vinyl, I think I outlined it. I circled one or outlined it in yellow. It says a sliding window.
Yellow.
And then the other one is single hung. I only put that in there to show that I got it from Home Depot and that it was Plygem company. But no, that is not the window.
Okay, and then the other thing that I noticed this just threw me off because I draw drawings, but your floor plan didn't quite look like the building, because the building's just a rectangle and you have this inserted area where it says.
That was actually just a mistake in the drawing. It actually juts out rather than sinks in, but I didn't realize that till later. But yeah, you're right.
Like a mirror image. Okay.
Yeah, it was just a mistake. We drew it going in instead of out, and I didn't realize that till just the other day when I looked back.
To summarize what my concerns are, I would like the entire building to look the same. I don't like that all the windows were changed and they weren't the original kind, but it's already done. But I don't want to introduce anything new, but I do want to make sure that if you have muttons, that everything matches below and above. So that's one concern. My biggest concern is just a vinyl window. I have a huge concern. I don't even know if those are acceptable in our guidelines. I know that we've accepted vinyl, but only when it was wood clad or vinyl clad wood. So it's a much sturdier window. And then sure that Mr. Green or Mr. Gaffer can speak on that one.
Well, I've heard of other ones that just came through, like Tanya, she's putting in double pane fiberglass windows that aren't to the historic code. That
Yes,
we just got approved.
and I know, I agree on that. Well, I didn't approve, but, okay. Let's move forward, and Mr. Green or Mr. Gaffer, I know you have both been here longer than the rest of us. I don't know if you have any comments on experience with the type of windows.
Well, I think when I came along to the board, PVC and vinyl windows were taboo. However, as time's gone on, I think there's some fairly good reproductions of period looking windows made by those manufacturers, which have the appearance from a distance like the originals.
They're
But
very.
I also
correct.
think there is a responsibility of owning a historic building, and that is to preserve what's there. And my house that I live in Old Bisbee has 5 windows like these that I see in this application, and they were all painted shut and unopenable. An afternoon's work on each one, and I was able to open them all. They're still their original windows, and with some good old-fashioned putty and paint, you can make them very functional, very easily, and a lot less than replacing them with a modern plastic window. So I'm all for preserving the windows as they are. But I realize this application is part of another building where a lot of the windows have already been replaced by more modern materials. And so this is a difficult one for us to adjudicate on, really. But I think if the windows are preservable, they should be preserved, and it will
They're
add
not
value,
preservable. They're not
add value to
preservable.
that actual.
Everything is rotting around the windows. They're thin. Some of them even have BB points, broken glass.
Well, yeah, I understand that. But I also understand that they're made of wood, a very readily available material, and it's not difficult to remake sashes to go in the old box window frames.
Mr. Gaffer?
Well, no.
Very much, Mr. Green.
Yeah, what Stephen says is it's the perennial hot button for the DRB is windows. I know if Ben were here tonight, he'd be jumping up and down by now. And I mean, he would have gone. I haven't had the benefit of being able to see these windows. I know Ben would have gone over them with a fine tooth comb and would have opined as to whether they could be renovated or replaced. So I'm not in a position, I'm afraid, to make that call. So I defer to others who have had the opportunity to go have a look. But it is, Windows is some of the last things that we can grab onto to say that this is historic. And
But at this point, all my other windows are like this, and I could put the grid in the middle on this one with the product that I told you about. I just don't understand the inconsistency with the last person who got approved for fiberglass double pane windows that open in the middle and are able to be cleaned that way. That is not historic.
She has no windows in that house to preserve. That we did look at that house, and it really was almost a tear down.
But is why would she not put wood windows in and not have fiberglass double pane?
Usually, if the original window is a wood window and can be preserved, it will be. If there is no window, then the owner has a little bit more leeway on that. If it can look like a double pane,
rotten.
These windows are rotten. And I have tenants that live in them. They're so dangerous that we push to pull them up, pull them down. And I tell them, when you're living here, you have to hold them up. We have even like some little holes that I've had to drill in the side to put a pin in, because if they drop it, it will hit and shatter. They're so dangerous. It's not even funny. This is the last windows that I have to put in that building, and the building, that's the only way that building's going to match now, is to keep it consistent.
Mr. Perfect?
I just, I understand both sides of this argument here. The one thing that I would be concerned about with this job is the continuity of the windows. Having the entire building match, because I know it's a 4-unit apartment house. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
And you've already replaced the windows in
All
3
of
of the
them.
units?
All of them except this one. This would keep it consistent.
With the windows that you're proposing that you do in unit D, is that correct?
Yes, this would keep it consistent with everything, and that would be the last windows I have.
Yeah,
You know.
I understand that. I guess what I'm saying is that the continuity of the entire building, if you've got those already replaced, it's like going back to the Hubert's house. You know, they're starting at a point where they've already got to complete new things in similar style. These windows, I think they need to be consistent with the remaining windows that have already been inserted. And that's just my opinion.
Are you saying to be able to use the ones I proposed, or?
Yeah,
I'm
he's
not
saying to replace
There's
them.
no motion at this time.
Yes. Well, I have another opinion because Mr. Gaffer asked about going out there. So I went out there and I got really, really close to these. And I have an issue. Okay, so I have 2 issues. The first one is that I do think that they possibly could get fixed. I didn't see huge holes in them like in some other projects we've seen. But at the same time, the problem is that 3/4 of the building has been done in a different way.
Yes.
So maybe what we can do is just get a motion. If somebody can get a.
We can put the center muttons on there.
And I can add the muttons if that's.
Yeah, I think that would definitely have to happen.
And
Oh, sorry, Mr. Perfect, and then Mr. Taylor?
if we're going to add muttons to the new windows, they have to be added to the existing windows as well.
Yes, we can do that.
Absolutely.
We can do that.
No, actually, they just need to match the ones that are there already.
Okay, the one.
It's what I'm thinking, because most of them have those muttons. You just couldn't see them because they're so skinny and little, you know, they're inside double pane glass. So the entire building should match. Mr. Taylor?
We can do that.
I can do that.
The muttons between the glass are of no value on the exterior of the building. The only time
No,
you'll-
this would be interior. I can do it on the inside. I've already researched it.
Okay,
And
Kathy,
it's,
Mr. Taylor, let's let Mr. Taylor finish his thought.
The
Then we move
muttons,
forward.
either in the middle or on the interior, are of no value to the DRB. It's the look on the exterior that you want to achieve. The ones in the inside of the glass, I'd rather see a single light full pane of glass than have that little fake thing between glass.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of vinyl windows. Probably some of you know that. This is a contributing building. I would love that it was, the secretary says in the rules that we have in the guidelines that it's you repair, then replace if you have to. And when you replace with like material. So if you have wood windows, you replace with wood windows. Obviously, Ms. Garcia had approval in the past from somehow to put in vinyl windows. And these match, so I'm on the same page as Mr. Perfect as far as the house will look more unified, I think. If there's those muttons between the glass, I guess we should do that. This is just my opinion, but we should do that as continuity. I think continuity is important, especially in a contributing structure. And the board has approved vinyl windows in various approvals that I've seen, not very often, but in approvals I've seen. The one caveat that I have about this is if you're going to install vinyl windows as
Can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Doug.
No, can't hear you.
No.
No.
and that's the secret of the universe.
I'm sorry.
You all will live by that. And I'm never going to say it again because God told me to say it to you.
Did you want to finish your thought there, Mr. Taylor?
I can't wait till we see each other in person. This is just not my forte. What I was saying was, if vinyl windows are approved, that I believe they must stay in the same dimensional pattern within the hole in the wall where the window goes, so that 10 years from now or whatever, someone can come along, maybe it's Ms. Garcia, and says, you know, these would be great as wood windows. Thank God I hit the lottery. And that you could then put wood windows that would keep the integrity of the original structure. So as a Band-Aid, I believe the vinyl windows only last about 5 years, but as a Band-Aid, I think vinyl windows can be approved. That's
Thank you.
Savannah?
And I just wanted to state, I'm in agreement with what Mr. Taylor mentioned there. And that's also why I didn't approve on the Bergeson one, because of, maintaining the historic wood. However, I do understand with the continuity for the building as it's there. It wouldn't normally be my position on that subject. But yes, I'm in agreement with the other members of the board here with this.
Okay, can somebody make a motion, please? Including the goofy.
Hey, Peter, where's Peter?
So someone
Okay,
else
Peter.
needs to make the motion.
You're on deck.
Peter?
Okay, Mr. Perfect.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we accept DRB number 2188 as presented with the provision that muntins are added to all the houses or all the windows in all of the units on the entire building.
Perfect.
Yeah, we can do that.
Did you want to add something to that?
I just wanted him to match whatever was there. So whatever's on the bottom floor, match the top floor. I don't want them to go through the entire, to spend a ton of money to change them all out, because there's only so many that have them on there. Would be the only thing. And maybe it's just because it's a slider, but wherever, when you look at the facade, they should match so that the entire building looks the same.
Okay, we can do that.
Accomplished that before, so.
It says only the top of the bottom.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Perfect. You want to finish your?
Are you talking specifically, Ms. Santianes, are you talking specifically about the private drive in the street side? That they
There's
match?
whichever facade, no, there's, well, in this one, there's 3 facades. So all 3 facades need to match, like each panel, like the front one needs to all match, the side needs to all match, the back needs to all match.
Well,
That
I
way
agree.
there's continuity with the building,
I agree with that.
in order for there to be continuity.
Do I need to add that to the motion?
Yes, he needs to add that to the motion.
Okay, with the additional provision that the facades all match current windows. Is that effective enough or explanation enough?
Mr. Taylor?
Well, what if all windows were unified in their appearance?
Okay, that's good. I was going to say that next. Thank you.
I know, because it was the secret of the universe. Actually.
Okay, so we have a motion that has been presented. Let's go ahead and let's see, do I have to do a vote? Let me see.
You have to call for a second, but I need to clarify something.
Thank you.
I need
Okay,
to
thank
clarify
you,
something
Dana.
first. So we're going we're not gonna do what you said, the facades all have to match. We're gonna do what Mr. Taylor said at the end with additional all windows approved with the same, what did you say, Mr. Taylor?
All windows will have a unified look.
Unified,
appearance.
thank you.
Yes, that ending.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes, I second.
Thank you, Lori. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are those opposed? Nays?
Nay.
I can't hear everybody. So one nay right now. Peter, I saw your hand. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I was a reluctant aye.
Okay. Savannah?
I'm a reluctant aye as well on this.
Okay, so that's 5-1 approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Letitia.
Okay, so agenda item number 8 is approval of the minutes of the October 6, 2021 special meeting. Anybody have a motion?
No, I'd like to bring up, I need to bring something up about the minutes in the last meeting, if I can.
Okay. Yes.
When I had asked earlier, when you were voted in as chair, are we not going to do the vice chair? And Nina, you had stated that it was not on the agenda, but on last week's notes for
Yes,
the
you're
the
absolutely
chair-
right.
chair
But it wasn't on
slash
this week.
Vice chair.
Yeah,
This-
that
this
was
is-
supposed to be on there. It did not make it. So the vice chair has to be done at the next meeting. So that was my fault. I was trying to get the agenda done and I just missed it.
Okay, well, I would like to see that type of stuff make it into the meetings for the agendas that we're going to do. Otherwise, this could have just gone by. Anyway, I understand.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perfect. Thank you, Nina. Moving on to the next item, staff comments. Attached, you will find the administrative proof for.
We didn't have a vote.
motion.
We didn't
Oh,
have
sorry.
a motion or a second or a vote.
That's right. Okay, motion. Mr. Green,
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the special meeting we had last time.
second. Second? All
I'll
second.
second.
I thought somebody
Okay,
seconded.
all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hey,
It looks like it was unanimous, and I don't know why I can't hear Savannah. You must have a little quiet voice. Nina, passes.
Sorry,
Okay,
it's going dead.
okay.
My earphones.
Moving forward, agenda item number 8. Oh, no, that's past. We're past that. Okay, staff comments. Attached, we received 1, 2, 3 approvals. I'm just gonna generalize this. The first one was for 223C Youngblood Hill. And we had given Mr. Taylor instructions to move forward on that. I believe everybody received that. I didn't see any issues with that. Did anybody have any comment on?
Can you just
Any
kind of,
detail? Go ahead,
can you just kind of explain what that was?
Mr. Taylor.
That was the Mr. Harvey, the windows that were from the 1960 edition, the sliders. And he brought product cuts in based on that you allowed those sliders, and I approved they matched the other windows, so that I thought it gave a unified look, but they were the 1960 edition.
Okay, thank you.
And I wasn't
appreciate
sure. Great. And Nina, I didn't know what application number that was, but anyway, it really doesn't matter. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Perfect. Anybody else have any comments on that? We can move on to the next one. I know these two were not written, but we just got them today. So application 2190 was a new metal roof that got approved by Mr. Ward. Everybody knew about that, I'm sure. And if not, it doesn't matter because metal roof or roofing or certain walls. I guess it's the oh my gosh, I'm drawing.
If I may, if it's like for like replacement, then that's an automatic admit at this moment, an automatic administrative approval.
Actually, it's not. because some is rolled goods on too high pitches, but this is an okay approval. So we'll
What
move
if,
forward on that?
yeah, but if they pulled off corrugated steel and put on corrugated steel, then
Right. Right.
what I meant.
So yeah, that one is approved because it's an approved material. Okay, then application 2186 at 734 D Tombstone Canyon. That was to replace a metal fence with a cedar wood fence per guidelines. And, or that was per guidelines. My only question on that was, did the applicant, were they interested in doing something else, or was that, I'm hoping that we're not showing them something and saying, okay, these are your 4 options. This is all you get to choose from. So
well, it is in that administrative approval is in that realm. If they wanted to do something outside of it, if it's within the guidelines, and I show them, if they don't know the guidelines, I show them the guidelines. She chose a fence that was a combo of 2 of the fences approved. If it was going to be anything different than that, let's say it had a tulip every 4 feet at the top carved into it, it would come before you.
okay, because typically fences come through here because we never really know what the applicant is looking for. Hate to tell them that they only have 4 options. That's it. And then all of a sudden we're going to have fences everywhere. So that's concerned with that.
And may I-
Anybody have comments or?
May I have a moment after you're done?
Yes, I am done. Does anybody else have any comments? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so that fence issue brings me to the administration and procedural issues that I've talked to several of you independently about, or you have talked to me about. We've had a conversation. How's that? And Mr. Green has been involved, and he has something that, Nina, did you put that on tonight's agenda? The application?
I gave them the application to
look at.
review and to look at and to come up with comments or suggestions or changes.
Okay.
For that. Well,
for the next-
actually, Mr. Taylor pointed
For
out.
discussion on December 1st.
Well, actually, Mr. Taylor pointed out that it should have been on a work session instead of the regular meeting. So I was going to send out dates and see, get a quorum for that. But yeah, he saw that in the notes and I didn't.
What I would like to do is when we can actually sit together, because I really find this, and I think several of us do, kind of clumsy for communication.
Can't hear you.
What happened?
Secret of the universe again.
I was gonna say the universe is against him today. Can't hear you.
I was going through a tunnel. It's fine. You're cutting out. I can't hear you. What I'd like to do is when we can be together. All right, am I out of it again?
No, you're good.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is, it may be in January, set up a work session and in between meetings, and really come to, because I'm flexible. It doesn't sound like it sometimes, but I am extremely flexible about how we go forward. If we change the administrative approval, which I tried to do a couple of weeks ago, I tried to put together a proposal that would take it away from us and give it to you. The problem with that is that it's in an ordinance and it can't be just removed. We could change the ordinance. We should talk about that. I also would like to talk about some of the philosophical and theory-based issues we've discussed tonight. This was a good night for this. It was a bad night for some things, but it was a good night for these philosophical issues coming up. I would like to discuss those. I've put together a little booklet for each of you. I'd like to give it to you and we discuss. It's not a teaching thing. It's a talking points so that you can tell me what you want. I can go forward I'm kind of your front line of defense. And then when you get it, it's not something that you don't want, like if we have to have dimensions on every drawing, that's fine. What I don't want, and this is just in this particular case, is the expense that a citizen for something fairly minor to hire an architect to draw a drawing that would be good for us. I know the Harmons spent a lot of money having Brandon draw that metal drawing, and to have him come back in and put another hour into dimensions, I felt we had the dimensions. It was my mistake. But if we could just hash out some of that stuff, I think it would be a really great way for all of us to start a working formula together.
I'm going to have to agree with that completely, because I know a couple months ago, I think it was like right as, well, maybe before you got here, but kind of that same month, I'd asked Nina, and I don't know why I never got in there, but that was part of what I wanted to know was, because before we have voted on what we can release for administrative approval. So I wanted to have this discussion so that we can release as many things as we could to you, so that our meetings, you know, aren't 3 hours long. And there's a lot of things you can do, but there's some things like, I mean, we're all going to have our own opinions, but things like fencing, things like definitely windows. We need to have some sort of gathering on windows and everybody be on the same page. And then remember that they're guidelines.
And we also have that new set of guidelines that you reviewed about 5 months ago. Maybe not even that, maybe 3 months ago. I think that this is a very good time before that, you know, we can modify that before it becomes an actual document.
Right. And I think it has not been 3 to 5 months. How long has it been, Mr. Green or Mr. Gaffer? It was before I started. I've been on the board.
Or was it that long ago?
14 months. So
Well,
it was
no,
prior
longer
to
than
14
For
months.
years.
Yes.
It's been years. But for the administrative approvals, Linda, the reason I didn't put it on there is because I knew Mr. Taylor was coming in and he was going to be your staff liaison. And so it needed to be discussed with him going forward.
Right. And if we can just put all that on the agenda so we can actually talk about it on this special day, whatever day you choose would be fabulous. So I'm in total agreement with that. I think we're all in agreement with that. We need to do more than guidelines. We need to have a little bit.
Please know that I am here to serve you guys. I'm here to serve the public. So I'm sort of in between, but I am here to serve you. So if you don't want administrative approvals, we can try to take that out and go before the council, and you know, we can do whatever you want to do, but I really want it to be your thing that you feel that you can, you know, change. We have to repair this city. It has gone
Agreed.
too long, and you can see every time somebody allowed something and then that gets doubled down on it, it crumbles the fabric. And I'd like to see that you guys take that control of that.
I agree. Then my fair to a fault kicks in, and I think everybody knows that today.
Yeah, preach on, brother.
So, okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any other comments? Otherwise, we will move on to, we already have future agenda items, and you have those pretty clearly defined, right, Nina? And so adjournment, does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting tonight at
8:28.
8:25.
Lori. Okay, Savannah. Oh, somebody already second. Who's second? Was that Mr. Green?
Yes.
Okay, definitely. Let's have that. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, and thank you, Mr. Taylor. We